Welcome to Earth Archives. When it comes to the Age of Discovery, everyone will definitely think of pirates, but do you know why the Age of Discovery started? To put it bluntly, it is trade interests. Since the existing routes were monopolized by the Ottoman Empire, countries pursuing higher interests chose to develop new routes. Let's talk about this era today. Before the show starts, please subscribe, like, and turn on the little bell. If possible, leave your thoughts. This will help the growth of the show. Without further ado, let's officially start. In the late Middle Ages, European adventurers embarked on expeditions across the Eurasian continent by land. Although the Mongols threatened Europe with pillage and destruction, their rule unified much of the Eurasian landmass. Starting from 1206, the peaceful territories under Mongol control facilitated safe trade routes and communication lines extending from the Middle East to China. Europeans utilized these routes to explore the East, with the majority being Italians, as maritime republics primarily controlled trade between Europe and the Middle East. The well-known Venetian merchant Marco Polo dictated his travelogue spanning Asia from 1271 to 1295. This book made significant contributions by introducing Central Asia and China to Europeans. While Marco Polo wasn't the first European to reach China, he was the first to leave behind a detailed chronicle. It was dictated by him in Genoese prison from 1298 to 1299, and later recorded in Old French by his fellow inmate Rustichello. Its contents inspired Christopher Columbus and many other travelers. Many countries sought commodities like silver and gold, but one of the main reasons for exploration was to find a new route for the lucrative spice and silk trades. Why? Because when the Ottoman Empire seized Constantinople in 1453, it blocked European access to the region, cutting off any land routes to the Far East. This severely restricted trade activities. Additionally, the passage to North Africa and the Red Sea was also blocked. These two maritime routes were crucial trade arteries to the Far East. Essentially, both sea and land routes were blocked. During this time, the Indian Ocean trade route was monopolized by Arab merchants. From 1405 to 1421, the Ming dynasty Emperor Yongle of China launched a series of far-reaching tribute missions. Fleets visited Arabia, East Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and Thailand. According to the accounts of the Muslim navigator and translator Ma Huan, these voyages abruptly ceased after the emperor's death. This was because the Ming dynasty subsequently implemented a maritime ban policy, restricting maritime trade and adopting an isolationist stance. The Age of Discovery began with voyages initiated by the Portuguese. While generations of Portuguese, Spanish, Italians, and others had sailed in the Mediterranean, most sailors stayed within sight of land or on established routes between ports. Henry the Navigator changed this by encouraging explorers to venture beyond charted routes and discover new trade routes to West Africa. As early as 1317, the King of Portugal reached an agreement with the Genoese merchant sailor Manuel Pesana, appointing him as the first admiral of the navy with trading privileges in exchange for 20 warships and crew to defend the country against Muslim pirate attacks. This laid the foundation for the Portuguese navy and the establishment of the Genoese merchant community in Portugal. Portuguese explorers discovered the Madeira Islands in 1419, followed by the Azores in 1427, and even reached the Cape of Good Hope by 1490. As the Portuguese opened new maritime routes along Africa, the Spanish also sought new trade routes to the Far East. The most well-known of these efforts was led by the Italian Christopher Columbus, working for the Spanish monarchs, who sailed for the first time in 1492, exploring Hispaniola, which is modern-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Columbus later led 3 more voyages to the Caribbean, including explorations of parts of Cuba and the coast of Central America. Meanwhile, explorer Pedro Álvares Cabral set sail for Brazil, leading the Portuguese to also reach the New World, sparking conflicts between Spain and Portugal over territorial interests. The eventual outcome was the Treaty of Tordesillas signed in 1494, formally dividing the New World in two, as other maritime powers like the Dutch and English had not yet risen to prominence. We're all familiar with Columbus's voyages, which paved the way for Spain's conquest of the Americas. Over the next century, figures like Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro would slaughter the Aztecs in Mexico, the Incas in Peru, and indigenous peoples throughout the Americas. By the end of the Age of Exploration, Spain's dominion extended from the southwestern United States to the southernmost tip of Chile and Argentina. Following in the footsteps of the Spanish and Portuguese explorers, England and France also embarked on expeditions in search of new transoceanic trade routes and territories. In 1497, the Italian explorer John Cabot, working for England, reached what is believed to be the coast of Newfoundland. Many French and English explorers followed suit, including Giovanni da Verrazzano, who discovered the entrance to the Hudson River in 1524, and Henry Hudson, who first mapped Manhattan Island in 1609. Over the next few decades, these maritime powers began vying for interests, with France, the Netherlands, and England all joining the race for naval supremacy. In 1607, England established the first permanent colony in North America at Jamestown, Virginia. Other significant voyages during this period included Ferdinand Magellan's attempt at circumnavigation, seeking a trade route to Asia through the Northwest Passage to avoid conflict with the Ottoman Empire. The result of Captain James Cook's voyages allowed him to map various regions, sailing as far as Alaska. With advancements in technology and an increasing understanding of the world, Europeans could now easily traverse the globe by sea, marking the end of the age of exploration in the early 17th century. The establishment of permanent settlements and colonies created communication and trade networks, eliminating the need for further exploration. It's worth noting that maritime exploration did not come to a complete halt. In 1770, Captain James Cook formally declared sovereignty over the eastern coast of Australia, while much of the Arctic and Antarctic regions remained unexplored until the 20th century. It wasn't until the late 19th to early 20th century that Westerners began exploring much of Africa. The age of exploration certainly had a significant impact on geography. Through voyages to different parts of the world, explorers gained a better understanding of the terrain in regions like Africa and the Americas and brought this knowledge back to Europe. Thanks to the travels of navigators like Prince Henry the Navigator, navigation and map-making techniques were further refined. Before Prince Henry's expeditions, navigators relied on traditional portolan charts, which were based on coastlines and harbors to aid sailors in navigating close to the shore. Through the efforts of Spanish and Portuguese explorers venturing into the unknown, the first navigational charts of the world were produced. These charts not only depicted the discovered landmasses but also mapped the sea routes and currents that guided them there. As technology advanced and knowledge of known territories expanded, map-making became increasingly sophisticated. These maritime explorations also unveiled a whole new world of flora and fauna to Europeans. For example, staples of today's diet like maize, corn, were unknown to the Western world until after Spanish conquests. Similarly, foods such as sweet potatoes and peanuts were also introduced to Europe through these explorations. Likewise, before the age of exploration, Europeans had never encountered turkeys, llamas, or squirrels until they set foot in the Americas. The age of exploration served as a stepping stone for geographical knowledge, allowing more people to see and study various regions around the world. It laid the groundwork for much of the geographical knowledge we possess today.